A storm may bend the branches, but the roots that choose silence grow the deepest. Spicy ladies, there's a truth the world rarely admits. Some women don't roar. They don't claw for the spotlight. They don't march to claim space in the chaos. Instead, they step aside, disappear from the noise, and walk in the direction only they can see. They are not trying to be seen, yet their absence is noticed more than the loudest presence. That quiet power unsettles the rooms that mistake volume for strength. This is the Sigma female. She asks for nothing yet changes everything. She doesn't fight for control. She simply removes herself from battles that aren't worth her spirit. Those who try to corner her, diminish her, or reshape her often find themselves facing an unspoken law. The energy you send out always comes back. And when it comes back, it's not always gentle. They end up learning that you can't disturb a woman rooted in herself without disturbing your own life in the process. Everybody involved is getting their karma now. And some of them are learning too late that the piece they tried to take from you was never theirs to touch. But today isn't about revenge. This is about understanding the anatomy of quiet strength, the elegance of boundaries, and the slow, certain ways the universe restores balance. If you breathe Sigma Spicy Lady psychology like oxygen, subscribe to Spicy Lady channel where we walk the quiet path together away from the noise toward the truth. If you've been craving a return to yourself, not the self the world has told you to become, but the self you were before the noise, I wrote Choose Yourself Softly for you. It's not a book you simply read. It's a book you sit with. The kind that hums quietly in your hands until you start to remember the weight of your own soul. These pages are not about pushing you toward a louder life. They're about bringing you home to the art of soft boundaries, to the strength of slowing down, and to the calm that only comes when you no longer feel the need to justify your existence. Inside, you'll find the courage to stop rushing, the permission to protect your own energy, and the beauty of living from your center instead of from the demands of others. It is a companion for the woman who is tired of the endless proving, the endless explaining, for the one who knows that the quietest choice is often the strongest. If your spirit has been whispering and you're ready to finally answer, the link to Choose Yourself Softly is in the description and in the first pinned comment. They called it subtle. They called it easy to overlook. But those who dismissed your presence didn't understand that your stillness was the beginning of an earthquake. The quiet earthquake is not sudden. It begins deep within, unseen, with no warning. People think they are standing on solid ground with you until they feel it shift under their feet. That's how your energy works. You don't announce your power. You move quietly beneath the surface. You're not aiming to destroy. You're simply reclaiming space where your spirit can breathe. Over time, the ground rearranges itself. Relationships that once stood firmly start to tilt. Priorities that others placed above you start to crumble in their hands. People realize too late that the comfort of your steady presence was holding up more than they knew. They try to run back to rebuild what they let crack. But by then the plates have already shifted. The landscape has changed and you have no interest in returning it to its former shape. In your silence, the mirror forms. It doesn't need to be held up. It's just there in the way you exist. Without words, without accusations, you reflect back to people the truths they've been avoiding. This is why they sometimes respond to you with irritation, with judgment, with attempts to undermine you. You aren't doing anything to them directly, but you are the presence that makes them aware of the gaps in their own integrity. They don't always realize this. They just know that they feel uncomfortable around you, not because you've harmed them, but because you make them aware of the harm they've been ignoring within themselves. And karma begins here, not as some mystical punishment, but as the unavoidable collision with one's own reflection. It's not you they're angry at. It's the truth you quietly remind them of just by being. Sometimes the loudest statement you can make is absence. You remove yourself without explanation, and suddenly they notice the air feels different. This is the art of absence. The precision move that pulls all the energy you've been pouring into someone or something back into yourself. You're not punishing them. You're restoring balance. You're cutting the cord to a draining source and letting the space between you fill with silence. It's in that silence they begin to feel the echo. The calls go unanswered. The familiar presence is gone from their daily life. The energy they assumed would always be there is now absent. And the absence itself becomes the teacher. Right now, if you are still watching, I hope this video can help you. Your comments motivate me so much, so I can make more videos which you like. So hit that subscribe button and leave me a message. Let's continue. No amount of reaching can replace what you used to give so freely. They are left to reckon with the value they failed to recognize in time. There is a place within you they can never touch. No matter what they say, no matter what they take, no matter how they try to twist the truth, there is an untouchable core in you. This is where your sovereignty lives. The part of you that knows who you are beyond anyone's perception. It's why you can walk away without losing yourself. It's why you can be alone without feeling empty. They can scratch at the surface all they want, but they will never reach the center. And that frustrates those who rely on control, because control depends on access and they will never have it again. Karma doesn't always rush in like a storm. Often it's a slow burn. The consequences unfold in layers, sometimes so gradually that the person doesn't even see them forming until they're fully surrounded. This is the slow burn of karma. The way time becomes the sharpest teacher. The days pass, and with them opportunities fade, relationships shift, and they start to realize the quiet loss they've sustained. It doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens in the pauses between moments when they suddenly notice how different life feels without you in it. There's a shadow they carry now, though they won't name it. The shadow of regret doesn't arrive with a dramatic confession or a sudden breakdown. It lingers quietly in the small moments they don't talk about, in the way they think of something they want to share and remember they no longer have the right to reach you, in the way they pass a place you once walked together and realize they are the only one left to carry the memory. Regret doesn't shout. It sits in the corners of their mind, present in every what if that can't be answered. For some, it comes as an ache, not sharp enough to them, but persistent enough to never leave. For others, it's a weight that makes every step heavier. They may try to fill it with new people, new distractions, new noise, but all of it feels like a pale imitation. Nothing matches the depth of connection you once offered them. They don't always know how to name the loss, but they live with it, and that is its own kind of justice. You've always understood that energy is a currency. Most people spend it without thinking, giving attention, time, and care to anyone who asks, without asking if they can afford to. But you learned that every exchange shapes your inner life. You stopped handing out pieces of yourself to those who only came to take. You began to invest only where the return was mutual, where the flow of energy nourished you rather than drained you. When you pull that investment away, people feel it. Some are shocked because they assumed your care was endless. Others become angry because they thought they were entitled to it. But what they feel most, even if they never admit it, is the reality of the loss. Your energy had a weight, a richness they didn't notice until it was gone. That's when they realize it wasn't just niceness you were giving them. It was the rare sustaining force of someone who truly sees and values others. And once you've decided to stop spending it on them, the vault is closed forever. You once offered them an invitation to your presence, to your trust, to the space in your life that only a few ever enter. That invitation wasn't just access, it was a privilege. But when that trust was taken for granted, the door closed. And once a Sigma woman closes that door, it's not reopened. This is the invitation they'll never receive again. It's not about bitterness. It's about the understanding that some spaces are sacred, and once desecrated, they cannot be restored to their original state. They may knock, they may apologize, they may even attempt to rebuild the bridge. But you don't rebuild bridges with those who set them on fire. Your door stays closed, not as punishment, but as protection. They are left standing outside, realizing too late that some opportunities only come once. And that realization shapes them far more deeply than any argument ever could. Your kindness was never weakness. It was intentional. You chose to give without keeping score, to extend grace where others would have walked away. But some mistook that kindness for compliance, believing they could take without limit. The paradox of kindness is that it is both a gift and a test. Those who pass the test treat it with reverence. Those who fail will one day understand what they've lost. When your kindness is withdrawn, it leaves a void. Not because you were performing grand gestures, but because you offered something rare: safety, understanding, and the freedom to be imperfect without fear of judgment. Without that presence, they feel exposed. They feel the cold edge of a world that doesn't soften itself for them. And that contrast between your presence and your absence becomes one of their most enduring lessons. There's a kind of revenge that doesn't require cruelty. It doesn't require plotting or speaking ill, or even thinking about the other person at all. The gentle revenge is simply living well. It's waking up with peace in your chest. It's building a life that feels like your own, free from the shadows of those who once tried to define you. You don't craft your happiness to prove anything to them, but the fact that you are thriving without them speaks louder than any confrontation could. This kind of revenge doesn't poison you. It nourishes you. It turns your focus inward toward the things that truly matter until the people who wronged you are no longer part of your daily thoughts. And yet, they hear about your joy. They see your progress. They notice your laughter in rooms they no longer have access to. They realize that not only did they fail to break you, they gave you the very reason to rise higher. There's a way you exist that guides others without ever stepping into their journey. You are not chasing them. You are not calling them back. Yet still they find themselves moving towards you. This is the lighthouse method. Standing steady, anchored in your truth, while others navigate their own darkness. You do not bend to get their attention. You don't shout instructions across the waves. Your presence alone becomes the point of orientation. Some hate you for this. They resent the fact that you can remain still and yet hold such quiet influence. Others feel a deep, unexplainable gratitude. The irony is you didn't choose this role to inspire them. You chose it to survive, to remain whole in a world that pulls people apart. And yet, by standing your ground, you've become a point of reference for those who are tired of drifting. Silence to most people feels like neglect or avoidance. But you know it's neither. Silence can be a verdict. It says without a single word, "I am done explaining myself to you." It removes the audience from the performance. It stops giving energy to an exchange that was never going to be fair. Your refusal to engage is not a weakness. It is the final word. And it often echoes louder than anything you could have spoken. When you fall silent, they are left with the only voice left in the room, their own. And that's when the weight of what they've done starts to settle. Without your responses to push against, without your presence to pull from, they face the raw truth of their choices. You didn't need to argue. You didn't need to win. You simply stepped away and let reality speak in your absence. Over time, something strange happens. Your reputation begins to move ahead of you. Even in rooms you've never entered, people have already formed an image of who you are. The story of what was done to you circulates quietly, sometimes in whispers, sometimes in blunt confessions. This is the reputation that walks before you, and it doesn't require your intervention. Those who have wronged you may try to rewrite the story, to shift the blame, to minimize their part. But truth has its own way of traveling. It reaches people you will never meet. It prepares the ground before you step into it. You don't need to correct every falsehood. Life has a way of arranging the facts in their proper order sooner or later. And by the time you arrive, you find that the space has already been cleared for you. There is an arena where people fight for validation, for dominance, for the right to be seen as right. You've learned to step out of that arena entirely. Freedom from the arena is not about giving up. It's about realizing that some games are designed for everyone to lose. You've stopped playing. You no longer seek to convince anyone of your worth. You no longer measure your truth against their applause or disapproval. This freedom feels strange at first. It can even feel lonely. But over time, it becomes one of the most powerful positions you can hold. Outside the arena, there is no scoreboard, no audience, no judges. There's just you and your own compass. And that compass doesn't bend toward trends or crowds or the noise of the moment. It points inward toward the kind of peace you can't buy, and the kind of strength that doesn't depend on winning anyone's favor. After the storms, after the chaos, you begin the quiet work of rebuilding. This is not the kind of rebuilding that rushes to erase the signs of damage. It is slow, deliberate, and soft. The soft rebuild is not about proving to anyone that you've bounced back. It's about creating a life that feels safe to live in again. You choose every piece carefully. You move at the pace your spirit can handle. You don't apologize for the time it takes. This patience confuses those who expect quick comebacks. They are used to people rushing back into the noise, eager to show they are unaffected. But you have no interest in pretending you are unaffected. You've changed, and you will honor that change by rebuilding in a way that matches who you've become, not who you were before. There is a universal pattern that threads itself through every story you've lived. The law of return is not about punishment or reward. It is about balance. Whatever you release into the world eventually comes back to you, transformed. The kindness you give returns as peace in your own life. The betrayal you endure returns to its source as isolation. This is not something you have to orchestrate. It is simply the way the unseen laws of life work. When you let someone go with grace, even if they've wronged you, the return comes quietly in the form of people who treat you with care, opportunities that align with your values, and a sense of safety within yourself. And when someone sows harm, their own hands eventually feel its weight. You do not wait for it. You do not look for it. You trust that what leaves you in whatever form will find its way back in the form it was sent. There comes a season when distance is not about anger, but about survival. The season of distance teaches you that not all absences are punishments. Some are the most loving choice you can make for yourself. You step away not to hurt them, but to protect your own inner life. The space you create is where you begin to heal, where you can see yourself clearly again without the distortion of their influence. This season can feel strange at first because the absence of their voice leaves a silence you're not used to. But over time, that silence becomes fertile ground. You begin to hear your own thoughts again. You rediscover the things you love, the rhythms that feel natural to you, and slowly the distance becomes the place where you remember who you were before the noise in your life. Now there is a new kind of wealth, one that doesn't sit in bank accounts or in the approval of others. The currency of self-respect is what you spend and save with the most care. You refuse to trade it for short-term comfort or validation. You do not spend it recklessly on those who have shown they will not honor it. This wealth sustains you in ways that external success never could. Others may not understand your choices. They may think you are too selective or too guarded, but you know the truth. Your self-respect is the foundation of your peace. Every time you protect it, you reinforce your own sovereignty. Every time you give it away too easily, you weaken the walls that keep your spirit safe. And so you keep it not out of selfishness, but because it is the resource upon which your entire life depends. When you walk away, it is not simply a departure. It is the echo of goodbye. Your absence is not a blank space. It is an imprint, a shape in the air they can still feel but can no longer reach. Every conversation without you carries the awareness of your absence. Every choice they make is shaped in some small way by the memory of you. This echo doesn't fade quickly. It can last years. Sometimes it lasts a lifetime. And while they may fill their days with other people, other conversations, other noise, the truth remains. There is no replacement for the way you existed in their life. That is the nature of real connection. Once it's gone, it leaves a hollow that cannot be patched over. In the end, you become the chapter they can't rewrite. They may tell the story differently. They may bend the facts, add their own embellishments, or remove details that make them uncomfortable. But no matter how they tell it, the truth of what happened lives in you. And because you live it quietly without needing to prove it, it becomes unshakable. You hold the original copy, the version that doesn't need defending. You don't need them to admit it. You don't need the world to validate it. You simply carry the knowledge, and that alone is enough. It becomes part of your strength, not as a wound you keep reopening, but as a fact you've accepted. They can write whatever they like, but they cannot erase the ink you've already set on the page of your life. Spicy ladies, being a Sigma female is not about dominance. It is not about playing the same power games the world worships. It is about self-ownership, the ability to stand rooted in your truth without asking anyone's permission. The world may never understand your way of moving. That's because your life is not a performance. It's a sanctuary. The people who tried to pull you out of yourself will face their own lessons in their own time. You do not need to watch. You do not need to measure. You simply keep walking your quiet road where every step is deliberate. Every choice is your own and your soul remains untamed. Until we meet again, keep your steps certain, your boundaries soft but unshakable, and your heart entirely yours. Stay true to yourself. To all the spicy ladies make life beautiful, thank you for watching and God bless.